The Maryland congressman who represents Kilmar Abrego Garcia is telling the Salvadoran government to, quote, cut the crap. Glenn Ivey says he was denied a visit with the mistakenly deported Maryland man during a trip to El Salvador this weekend, despite formal requests to the country's ambassador. Abrego Garcia has been in prison in El Salvador for more than 2 months, despite a Supreme Court order demanding the Trump administration facilitate his return to the United States. Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Glenn Ivey of Maryland.
You did a press conference, or a video, if you will, with Kilmar Abrego Garcia's lawyer yesterday. We want to play that for folks, a snippet of it.
Okay.
I came all the way down from the United States after we'd contacted their ambassador, after we'd made formal requests to our ambassador to the El Salvadoran government. And we came here to visit him today. And now they're telling us we got to go all the way back to El Salvador, to San Salvador, to get a permit. That's ridiculous. We ought to have a chance to come in and visit. They knew we were coming. They knew why we were coming. And they know we have the right to do this.
I find it interesting that they were able to stage a photo op, courtesy of the El Salvadorian government, for Senator Van Hollen when he went down after much pushback because the attention was so high and it was at the forefront of the news. And this time, can't see him, you need a permit. It seems as though the El Salvadorian government is playing games.
Well, they're definitely playing games. Chris had a bit of an advantage because in the Senate, he got Kodell's support. We can't get that in the House because the House Republicans won't do any kind of bipartisan thing along those lines. But, at the end of the day, what's the harm? The prison, as far as I could tell, looked fine from the inside. I just had to peek through a crack in there to see all that I could see. But, they knew we were coming. They knew we had a right to talk to the guy. Really, all I was coming to do was bring a message from his wife and from his lawyers, who he's never had a chance to meet. But the focus really needs to be on the Trump administration, because at the end of the day, Bukele and the government in El Salvador, if Trump got on the phone and said, okay, send him back, he'd be here in a matter of hours. So keeping the Trump administration in the spotlight and making sure we keep pressing them to comply with the Supreme Court order and the other judicial orders, not just in Kilmar's case, but in others, that's what we need to focus on.
I'm curious, could you explain or maybe express how is this different? Because I've been thinking about this case in particular, but some of the others that are very similarly situated. How is this different from when Putin grabs a journalist or some, rogue group in the Middle East grabs an American, and we're sitting here fighting to try to get them back? Our own government did this. Our own government snatched him up and put him in harm's way, and now refuses to do what it must do and should do to get him back home. Is there any difference in your view as a member of Congress when, you're sitting here and you're getting intel and information on individuals around the globe who've been taken by, taken hostage by groups and organizations, and all this energy to try to get them back? I find we're doing the exact same thing here in the U.S. now.
Yeah, we
with our own government. We're petitioning our government to stop seizing people and grabbing them off the streets and putting them in foreign prisons.
Yeah.
This is the part that's killing me.
And don't forget the Venezuelans. So you had, of the 250 that were seized, 50, and this is according to the Cato Institute, had no charges against them here in the United States, in El Salvador, or in Venezuela, and they were here in the United States legally. Their paperwork was in order. Yet they still picked them up, they still deported them, and they still aren't bringing them back, even though a court's pressing them to do that. So that's about, and they're in a jail indefinitely, having committed no crime or any kind of offense anywhere. They might not ever get out of there, depending on how this plays out.
I just don't understand how the U.S. government and this president justifies that. Right. How you look Americans in the eye and say, we put them in a prison, they're never coming back home. And they say it with such ugly smugness. They say it with such disdain for the humanity of the individual. Oh, yeah, if we've just shipped them off. And then you got these people applauding it and saying it's okay to do that until they come for you.
Yeah.
You cannot justify it. And Congressman, on that point, You represent not only Kilmar Abrego Garcia, you represent his wife, who's a U.S. citizen. You represent his children, who are U.S. citizens. I know you said you had a message from the wife to her husband. I'm curious how that family is doing and how they feel about the fact that this has been done by their own government.
Well, it's tough. I mean, the little kids are too young to know all of the nuances, but they know they're getting harassed, and they know that mom's getting threatened. They know that, they have trouble going to school, and all. They have to take a level of precautions that no civilian should have to take. I'll say it that way. And then the conversation with the lawyer, just basic, does he even know you? No, he doesn't know I represent him. He doesn't know he has lawyers. He doesn't know anything about his legal rights. He doesn't know anything about the status of his case. That's ridiculous, He's in another country, yes, but he's only there because the United States sent him there. And apparently there's a contractual agreement between the United States and El Salvador. So either whether it's based on the contract or just his basic rights as a person who was deported from here, he should have the right to have counsel and the rule of law apply.